Yeah.
This is Chiles, and she has what I believe is separation anxiety. She loses control. Well, she has some accidents when her guardians leave her home alone at times. She also has some accidents when they're home, but I think in those capacities she can't get to the door. So I think we're dealing with two issues. Now, when dogs have separation anxiety and they lose control and they're having accidents in your house, it is not intentional. I have talked to probably hundreds of clients who punish their dogs for doing this. If you had a friend who was so petrified of getting on a roller coaster they peed their pants when they were you would never make fun of them for doing that. You would feel really bad for that. Separation anxiety should be looked at as almost like a panic attack. The dog is not in its balance, it's not thinking clearly, it's just freaking out. And the reason for this is most people don't ever help their dog practice being alone. This is one of the questions I ask my dog behavior clients is when a dog misbehaves, have you taught your dog how to behave in that situation? People look like I'm incredulous. But we teach our kids how to have good manners, how to potty train, how to walk to school, and everything we go through life, and we're taught the same way. So basically, what we want the dog to do is to build up, well, first of all, to change the leader-follower dynamic. And this is stuff I went over off camera, but basically we evaluated the dog's day-to-day routine, the behavior problems, as well as the structure that was in place. Didn't really have a lot of rules. Now, she's a great dog. Aside from having the accidents in the house and occasionally attacking some blinds when people are coming by, because I think this is related, she thinks she's in charge of security because of the lack of rules and structure. And so even though she's a really well-behaved dog, just like I ask my clients, is your daughter well-behaved? Yeah. Do you remove all the rules because the daughter's well-behaved? And they're like, no. The rules are probably what help the daughter be well-behaved. So I'm using really high-value training treats for this exercise, and in this video I'm going to show you how you can teach your dog to stay. This is going to give the guardians the ability to put the dog in a stay and then go get a drink of water or go throw in a load of laundry and check on the kids. This way we can help the dog practice staying alone in very easy capacity. Number one, the humans are here, they're not actually leaving me, and I'm actually doing something, I'm staying, and they're just in the next room. So, and then what we want to do is progressively elongate how long the dog stays alone until the dog is just relaxed and comfortable while hanging out in the room where you guys are in the next room watching a movie for 2 hours. And now the dog's practiced that behavior. Now when you do leave, I've done something between 0 and 100%, but most of us, we love our dog to death. She's a Velcro dog, she's with us all the time. And then when the guardians leave, there's nobody else here, I lose control of my bladder. All right, so I'm going to teach her how to stay. Now, I teach stay a little bit differently than I originally learned it. The way I learned it originally is stay, I take a step back and stay, another step back, and then I come back, and then I would say come. So you're teaching the dog basically an auto release. That's really teaching the dog a wait. Now, when I teach the stay, I teach it for the 3 Ds. First for duration, then for distance, then for distractions. So I want the guardians to practice a stay with the dog sitting right here in front of us until we can get up to 5 minutes. Now the iterations are going to be different for every dog in every situation. I had one dog that I had actually practiced a week's worth of 1-second stays because I went to 2 seconds and he started offering different behaviors. It's hard for dogs not to do anything. Just sit here and do nothing. Why you're not giving me a treat? I can smell you got a treat. Why you're not? How about if I shake? What do you want? You want to roll over? You want to bark? And so not doing something takes practice. Even though as humans we're very good at it. All right, so I have a handful of treats here. I'm going to deliver the treat from the hand that's behind my back. Otherwise I can distract the dog. So I'm going to put it behind my back. If your dog likes to stay in a down position like this, then start in a down position. The book says the dog just has to stay in the location. I want the dog, if I put it in a sit stay, to stay in a sit. But I do this for a living. I want my dogs to have very high standards. If your dog goes from a sit to down, that's fine. But if it always goes down to a down, just start with the down. All right, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to hold my hand out halfway distance between me and the dog, and I'm going to give it this command word. Now, before we do this, we need to give our dog a release word. Now, I like using fun command words because dogs can actually read our facial expression. One of my dog's command words, one of my dogs, has a release word that is parole. Another dog is saying break, freedom, release. Do you have any words that, I should have asked this before we started filming, do you guys have any preference for any words? There could be other words as well. You can say vacation, stroll. But again, I like words that make people laugh like that because then the dog feels good about it.
Yeah, I like vacation.
Okay, perfect. All right, so I'm going to use the word stay as the command word to stay. So I'm going to hold my hand halfway out, I'm going to say stay, and I'm going to put it back to my breast, and then I'm going to count to 2. And I'm going to go by 2s, I'm going to hopefully do 2, 4, 6, 8, 10. Then the last trait I'm going to throw to the side to give the dog training on the release word. All right, so stay. Stay. Always when you're giving a treat, you always want to say the command word after the treat goes to the dog's mouth. Right after. Stay. Stay. And count in your brain. A lot of people don't count these. That seems like about 4 seconds. Just do 1 Mississippi, 2 Mississippi. Stay. Stay. She was doing a little bit of a grumble exhale. Stay. Stay. Now it's okay if the dog's not looking at my face because eventually we're going to leave the room. So it doesn't matter where they're looking. All we want her to do is just stay here. All right, so last one, 10 seconds. Stay. Stay. Now, sometimes you're going to do this 5 times, 10 times, however many iterations you're going to do. The last one is we're going to take the treat, let the dog see it, throw it just off the side, and say vacation. So the last treat always does that. Otherwise, we teach the dog what we call an auto release. All right, let's come over here. Let's practice a little bit more. Now I'm going to try to incorporate distance. This is more difficult. So this is, if she doesn't do well, it's because I haven't prepared her by having her work to 5 minutes. And go to 5 minutes. Most people are like, we got to a minute, we're good. We went to this. Now you're making it too hard for the dog. If you can get your dog to stay for 5 minutes, then you start moving away, the dog's comfortable doing it. So I'm going to try to get up. I'm old, and so now I don't get up as quickly as I used to. So what I'm going to do is, Chiles, stay, and then I'm going to take 1 step backwards. I count to 2, then come back, stay. Now this is my starting point, and it's going to vary based on your dog. So stay, 1, 2, and I count to 4. This is my initial. You see how she's leaning forward. She's thinking about it. Stay. Vacation. Now, if you are at like, and maybe I start at 2, when I'm doing it for duration, I might go 2 seconds the first time, next time I might do 3 seconds, 4 seconds, 5 seconds. Let's say I go from 5 seconds to 10 seconds. And at 8 seconds, she gets up and walks away. Back up and practice at 7 seconds. Always back up to the previous step and practice there a little bit more. Now, the 1 step and counting to 2 and then coming back, that's just my starting point. It's going to vary for each dog. If some dogs are better at it than others, she's an older dog and she's pretty well behaved, so you might be able to move faster than somebody with a puppy that's really high energy. Okay, so once we get to the point where, so now I'm going to show you using this wall. So when we go out of the dog's line of sight, it's even harder. Stay. 1, 2, 3. Can you see me? So now what I'm going to do is step out of the dog's line of sight for 1 second, then come back, stay. Vacation. So at first, I'm only going to step out of the dog's line of sight for 1 second, and then stop back, and then come back and give the dog the treat. Next time I do it, I might say 2 seconds, 3 seconds. Gradual, and the idea is to elongate it, but be right there. Now, sometimes it's nice if you have like a mirror or something so you can see the dog. A lot of times dogs can't figure out near mirrors. Or if you have a security camera, you can watch it on the side to make sure the dog's not getting up. The dog gets up, like I said, take a step backwards. Now, once you get to the point where the dog can stay for up to 5 minutes with you out of the room, then you can start doing it for distractions. And a great way to do it for distractions, especially for her, is to practice right in front of your front door when there's things going on outside. But again, we set her up for success, sit, because we practice in the easiest capacity possible just for duration. And once she builds up that skill set, then we go to the next stage, which is a little bit harder, crash. And eventually go to distractions. And you can also do if she barks or she freaks out when there's a dog on TV or the blender. You know, we want to work those things in and help her practice. And eventually having the kids walk around her when she's doing it. I'm training a dog, one of my dogs, to be a service dog. And I mean, one of the things that they do for tests is they put the dog to sit and they play a game of basketball around the dog and it has to sit there and not move. That's really hard. And this takes a lot of practice. Now, when you're doing dog training, I usually tell people to keep the practice sessions less than 90 seconds. But when it comes to stay, obviously we're going to go up to 5 minutes. So eventually you get to the point where we have a 1 minute stage. You'll say stay, and then you count to 100, or stay and you count to 60, or 120, whatever it is. But once you get to the point where you can be out of sight for 5 minutes, that's the point to start practicing this, where you put the dog in a stay and you go get a drink of water and come back. So now if you're doing this several times a day, up, that'd be a stand, I guess. That's a sit. There you go. But now just putting the dog in a stay is just practice of doing that. And then the idea is to progressively make it longer and longer. So try not to go for too long. Like a quick bathroom break is okay if you're just going number 1, but if you're going to number 2, that might be too long. So just measure it out so that you're not doing it too long. And after a while, you don't have to do the toss to the side. You can just say the word vacation. One other thing, a lot of dogs, and this is going to be my little bonus section for dogs that suffer from separation anxiety. Do you happen to have your keys with you?
Over here.
So we're going to watch her, and I will just pick them up and jingle them. And go walk towards the door. Okay, so she's not doing what I want. They say in TV, you don't want to work with dogs or animals or children. But basically, for a lot of dogs, picking up the keys is a trigger that means you're about to leave me home. Putting your shoes on in a specific place, picking up your purse, putting your sunglasses on, or whatever they are. So these things precede, you can go ahead and put them back. So if you notice that when you guys are doing this, and when you're doing this, and we have a family here, and there's a lot of kids, so there's more production, like getting the kids all, those are probably more of a trigger than that, because when you grab your keys, that doesn't necessarily mean I'm going to be left home alone. You're probably the first person to leave the house. So it might be more when mom is getting the kids ready to go so if you notice that she starts pacing, whining a little bit, breathing a little heavy, those are signs that she's starting to get stressed out. Most dogs with separation anxiety actually start panicking before we actually leave. So if you notice that doing a certain activity like picking up your keys gets the dog excited, you should practice picking up your keys and put them back down and sit down and watch some TV. Pick up your keys, get up and walk, take a step towards the door, and then put them back down. So we want to recreate these situations over and over and break the connection with us leaving. So if we can help the dog practice learning to be alone, and then we also simultaneously desensitize them from those particular triggers, and at the same time we start rewarding desired behaviors through passive training and petting with a purpose. We start enforcing rules consistently, like not being allowed to be in the dining room when we're eating, or in the kitchen when we're preparing food, or you have to wait for permission to eat food waiting in your bowl, or permission to go through an open door. Now the dog is developing more and more self-control. And the more self-control the dog has, the lack of the eliminating or having accidents when we're gone is a lack of control. And so we're helping the dog practice these other skills that are going to have a correlation to her having accidents when we leave and she suffers from separation anxiety, right? All right, this is Chiles, and these are some tips and tricks that you can use to teach your dog to stay and help them practice being alone if they suffer from separation anxiety.